Okay, today we're going to continue with our lesson of solving equations, but now we're going to go with multi-step equations. So it's going to end like it did with the last worksheet, with having like terms on opposite sides of the equal sign. So again, we're still going to be working PEMDAS backwards, super important for you to understand. Okay, so we're going to be unwrapping that package and trying not to tear the tape. If there are any parentheses, you've got to distribute the number on the outside to both numbers on the inside. This is what we call the distributive property. Super important that you recognize this. So you need to make sure you distribute. Then you're going to simplify each side by combining like terms. And remember, I said CLT. So we're going to combine like terms. And we're going to collect variables on one side by adding or subtracting the smaller. So I always said I was consistent, and I always looked for the smaller value. And I brought that variable over first. So take the smaller variable. Super important that you remember that, okay? Once all the variables are on the same side, then begin to isolate the variable by adding or subtracting the constant from the other variable. Again, let's say constant. Constant is going to be the number without the variable, okay? So it's the number without the variables. This is the number that we're talking about. Then you're going to multiply or divide by the coefficient. Remember, a coefficient is the number attached by multiplication to the letter. And then you can check to make sure that you're right to see if the left-hand side equals the right-hand side. So a couple of things you need to remember is the variable is the letter. The coefficient is the number attached by multiplication to the variable. Like terms are terms with exactly the same variable and exponent. And this is the distributive property. And you guys have seen this multiple times. This is whenever you are absolutely taking A times B and A times C. But it's also on the right-hand side, A times B and A times C again. So you get the same outcome. So let's jump straight into this. So the very first thing you will see here is parentheses. So what we're going to do is we're going to distribute. 5 times 5 is 25A. 5 times 3 is 15. Then you're just going to drop down the right-hand side. Okay? So now, I've distributed, I've gotten rid of all my parentheses. So the next thing you're going to do is combine like terms. Combining like terms is super important. So we're going to be on the same side. So do I have any like terms on the left-hand side? There are no like terms on the left-hand side, so I simply drop down the whole left side. The right-hand side, though, there are like terms here and here. 12 apples plus 2 apples is going to give me 14 apples, and then drop down the minus 29. Okay? Then, according to our steps, we're going to collect the variables on one side by adding or subtracting the smaller one. So look at your variables. My variables are going to be 25A on the left and 14A on the right. Which one is smaller, 25 or 14? Well, clearly the 14 is. So we are going to go ahead and we are going to subtract 14A from both sides. And we are putting our variable under its like term on each side of the equation. So 25 apples minus 14 apples is going to be 11 apples positive. Drop down the 15. The 14A's cancel out, and I'm left with a minus 29. So now this is just like what we did yesterday. So since this is just like what we did yesterday, I'm solving for A. So I have the 11 and the 15 attached to it. 11 is attached by multiplication. 15 is attached by addition. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate the 15. The opposite of positive is negative. So we're going to subtract 15 from both sides. And we are going to go from which direction? Left to right always. So I drop down the 11A. The 15s cancel out. And I have negative 29 and negative 15 to give me a negative 44. Okay? And the next thing you're going to do is solve for A. So the A has 11 attached to it by multiplication. So if the 11 is attached to it by multiplication, I'm going to divide both sides by 11. So I have A is equal to negative 4. And you're done. Okay? So next, I have 3x plus 9 over 3 plus 6 is equal to 13. Okay, the very first thing that we are going to do is we are going to treat this as one quantity, this whole fraction. That has the variable in it, so that's going to be one big quantity. So that means I need to first get rid of that plus 6. So how do I get rid of that plus 6? I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So I drop down the 3x plus the 9 over the 3, and that is going to equal 7. Well, now I'm going to get rid of the denominator. So how do I get rid of this 3? Well, this 3 is attached to the numerator by division, so the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. So the bottom 3 and the top 3 cancel out here. I drop down the whole top of the fraction, which is the numerator, which is 3x plus 9, and that is going to equal 21. So now we're right back to where we were whenever we started the problem from yesterday. How do I solve 3x plus 9? What do I do first? Well, I'm going to first get rid of this 9 by subtracting 9. Working from left to right, the 3x drops down, the 9's cancel out, and 21 take away 9 is going to be 12. Divide both sides by 3, and you're going to get x is equal to 4. Okay? So these are a lot harder. Okay? So let's go ahead and start tonight's homework so that you know what you're doing. So, number 2, do you have parentheses? And the answer to that is yes, you do. So since you have parentheses, we are going to go ahead and distribute. So this gives me a 2x plus a 6 equals a 3x minus a 9. So I have no parentheses. So now we're going to check each side for combining like terms. Do I have any like terms on the left? I just have an x and a 6, and on the right I have an x and a 9. So I don't have any like terms. So now I'm going to look for the smaller variable. So what is the smaller variable? The smaller variable in this case is going to be the 2x. So how do I get rid of that 2x? By doing the opposite of positive 2x, that's going to be minus 2x. And again, put that directly underneath its like term. That cancels out, and I'm left with 6 is equal to x minus 9. Now I'm solving for x, so how do I do that? I'm going to do the opposite of minus, which is going to be plus 9 to both sides. And I have 15 is equal to x. And you are done. Okay? Next, number 5. Number 5, again, this is the variable, so we treat this whole entire thing as one fraction. So that means I need to get rid of the 7 first. So how do I do that? It's a plus 7, so I'm going to subtract 7. I work from left to right, dropping down the 15v over 8, and that is going to equal 30. Okay? So now, how is the 15 over 8 attached to the v? By multiplication. So what we are going to do is the opposite of that, which is divide. But when you divide by a fraction, this is where you multiply by its reciprocal. The reciprocal of 15 over 8 is going to be 8 over 15. Okay? So from left to right, the 8's cancel out, the 15 cancels out, and I have v is equal to. Go ahead and put the 30 over a 1, and then the 8 over the 15 stays. So look diagonally, and look what cancels out. 30 divided by 15 is a 2. The 15 turns into a 1. So what you have left is going to be 2 times 8, which is 16. One more time for that. 15 times 2 is equal to 30. So 30 turns into a 2, and the 15 turns into a 1, and what you're left with is 2 times 8, which is going to be the 16. Okay? Next, number 6. Okay, the very first thing I need you to do is look at your problem and say, do I have parentheses? Well, the left-hand side is super easy because you guys are going to say, okay, well, this is going to be 3x plus 6 is equal to. But the right-hand side is where things are going to get a little funky. What I want you to do right here is address this minus. That's going to be a -5 plus a -2 parenthesis x minus 3. Changing that minus to a plus negative makes your brain realize that you are distributing not just a +2, but a -2 to those parentheses. It also keeps you from combining the -5 and the -2, which would be very wrong. So this is -2x plus 6. So now that I've gotten rid of parentheses over the entire thing, what we have to do now is go right ahead and combine like terms on each side of the equation. 3x plus 6 stays, but I do have like terms right here. The -$5 owed versus having the $6 tells me I have 1 plus a -2x. So from here, you're going to find your smaller x. My smaller x is the -2x, so how do I get rid of that? I get rid of that by adding 2x to both sides. So I'm going to have a 5x plus 6 is equal to 1. 5x plus 6, how do I get rid of that 6? I'm going to get rid of that 6 by subtracting 6 from both sides. So I have 5x is equal to a -5. Then we're going to divide both sides by 5 to get x is equal to -1. The key to this problem is this right here. You have to make sure that you are, without a doubt, changing that minus to a plus negative. Okay? That's a really hard problem. Number 12. We've done one like this multiple times. We're going to first thing first, keep this as one problem. One term. So now we're going to get rid of this -8 by adding 8 to both sides. So 5y minus 7 is equal to a 12, making sure that this is over 4. So now I have a numerator and a denominator. I need to get rid of that denominator. So how do I get rid of this denominator? I do that by multiplying both sides by 4. The 4's cancel out. I'm left with 5y minus 7 is equal to 48. Now, this is just like a two-step equation. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the -7 by adding 7 to both sides. 5y is equal to 55. Then I'm going to get rid of the 5 by dividing both sides by 5 to get y is equal to 11. And that is how you are going to do your multi-step equation worksheet number 1. If you have any questions, please contact me.